This is the review for test 17 for Algebra 2. That's due this Friday the 1st. The test will also be due this Friday the 1st. So here we go. Okay, now number 1 on the review is actually the lesson that you're going to have this week. It's lesson 85. You're going to have it this week. So I'm going to talk about it more. So I'm going to walk through this. I'm going to walk you through this. What you're going to do first is you're going to factor this as the sum of two cubes. Okay, so let me remind you, sum of two cubes, difference of two cubes. We've actually talked about it before. Sum of two cubes factors into a plus b, so you take the cube root of the first two. Then you square the a. You put the product of the two with the subtraction sign, so minus ab, and then plus b squared. That parenthesis shouldn't be there. Okay, so that's how the sum of two cubes factors. Then the difference of two cubes is a minus b, and then a squared plus ab plus b squared. So that's those are your patterns for the sum of two cubes and the difference of two cubes. We're going to talk about that more on lesson 85. Then I'm going to send out that lesson for you this week. Okay. Anyway, so you may want to watch that and take those notes to help you on doing this. But I'm going to walk you through this one, which will help you on the test. Okay, so we're going to factor this first. It's the sum of two cubes. How do I know? Because that has a cube root x. 27 has a cube root 3. Then from there, we square the x, which is x squared. We find the product of the two, which is 3x, and put a minus because it's the sum of two cubes, and that's the way it's done. And then we square the 3. Now, we're asked to solve this or to find the roots, and we only want a real root. This is not going to give us a real root. You could do b squared minus 4ac. In fact, I want you to see that it'd be negative 3 minus 4 times 1 times 9. So 9 minus 36, that's going to give me a negative number. That's going to give me a negative 27, okay? That's not a real root. We want real roots here. The only real root comes from this one, which is negative 3. Okay, so that's what's going to happen every time on these right now for you. You're going to factor it, and there's only going to be one real root. But I do want you to look at this, look at the discriminant for this, and see that you're going to get a negative here and can't have a real root. And that's what we're concerned with, okay, is finding real roots. Okay, then we skipped this before, but I don't want to skip it now. We're going to graph 9y minus 18 greater than negative 8x. So we're going to add 18, and we're going to have 9y greater than negative 8x plus 18, and then we're going to divide everything by 9. So y is greater than negative 8 over 9x plus 2. Now you have to do this on graph paper. I will repeat again, on graph paper. So you got to send me a picture of your graph. I want this on graph paper. So we start at 2 because that's my y-intercept. My slope is negative 8 over 9. So down 8, right 9. There's not an equal to bar, so I leave this as a dotted line because there's not an equal to bar, and I shade above because it's greater than. So if it was less than, you'd shade below. If it had an equal to bar like this, you would put a solid line, okay? So everything else you should know how to do. Use a map color to color it, and I want to see the graph paper. If you don't send it on a graph paper, you'll get it wrong. Okay. So then the next one, number 3, we've got that natural log stuff from lesson 81, natural log of e, x squared minus x. So natural log e cancels. You're left with x squared minus x. That's it on that one. Number 4, negative 3 to the negative third. So we've got to be careful with this. The negative on this 3 makes us flip it, okay? So we don't change these two signs, and we don't change these two signs yet. We have to follow order of operations, okay? To get rid of that sign, you flip it, okay? It's in the top, you put it in the bottom. Then we follow order of operations. So negative 3 cubed is negative 27, and then negative 27, and that negative, make it a 1 over 27. So be careful with that. Go slowly on that, and you cannot have decimals on that one. Then for number 5, I've got negative 5 I to the 22nd. So this is where we want to simplify this I to the 22nd. So we want to have I to the 20th and I squared because I to the 20th, the 20 is divisible by 4. And this is from lesson 69 if you need to go back and look at it. But I've put numbers... Oh, maybe I didn't. I thought I put them on the review. So if you need to go back and look at it, it's on that lesson. But 20 divide by 2. You can divide 20 by 4. So that means, remember, it's I is I. I squared is negative 1. I cubed is negative I. And I to the 4th is 1. So if I can get these exponents to be divisible by 4, I'm good, because that'll cancel that part out. And then I squared is negative 1. So I've taken the I to the 22nd. I to the 20th cancels. I squared is negative 1, and then I multiply that by negative 5. So negative 5 times negative 1 is positive 5. So that's what number 5 reduces into. Then number 6, you're using A equals PE to the RT. And this is continuously compounded interest, where A is the total amount, P is the principal, what you start with, R is the annual interest rate, and T is the time in years, always in years. To the nearest hundredth of a percent, what annual interest rate? So we want R for the value of investment to double in 15 years. So we want it to double. So if I want it to double, that means I want that to be 2 and this to be 1, because they don't give me what I start with. And I want that interest rate, and I want it to double after 15 years. So that's my time. And I want R. So this is where, 1 times E is just E, or you could divide by 1 to get rid of it, but this is where you take the natural log of both sides, which we've talked about before. Okay? So then ln E cancels. So you're left with ln 2 equals 15R. So you divide by 15. So R is ln 2 divided by 15. Be very, very careful when you type this on your calculator. ln 2 close parentheses divided by 15. Whoops. And you get 0.0462. So R is about 0.0462. And we've got to write that as an interest rate. So 4.62%, because it's got to be in a percent. Okay? So that's the way you do number 6. One's like number 6. Number 7 is solving, and we're going to be able to solve by factoring. 6x squared plus 49x plus 49 equals 0. Said we can solve by factoring. I can't take anything out, so 6 times 49. 6 times 49 is 294. And we need the factors of 294 that give 49. Okay, I'm just going to start. We need it to be, we've got to add them, so let's try 24. It's not 24. 294 divided by 14. That's 14 and 21. That doesn't give me 49. 294 divided by 12. Nope, 294 divided by 18. Oh my gosh, 294 divided by 14. No, that's 21. I already did that one. What about 294 divided by 28? Ugh. Oh my gosh. Sorry guys, I should have done this before. 294 divided by 24. 294 divided by 294 divided by 24. 294 divided by, give me 7. There it is. Oh my gosh. 294, it's 42 and 7. Hopefully y'all got to it way before I did. Anyway, it's 42 and 7. Sorry about that. So 6x squared plus 42x plus 7x plus 49. So then take a 6x out, I get x plus 7. Take a 7 out, I get x plus 7. So then 6x plus 7, x plus 7. So then negative 7 over 6. There's your solutions. Wow, that shouldn't have taken near as long. Sorry. But but there it is. Then on number 8. Number 8 is where you're just going to multiply by x minus 9 on both sides. This is from lesson 84. So you multiply both sides by x minus 9, or it's like you're multiplying like a proportion. So you're cross multiplying. So negative 4x times 1 equals negative 4x, and then that'd be negative 2 times x minus 9 over here. Let's do it that way, because that's the way I showed it on the notes, is that you work it like a proportion. So negative 4x times 1, and then negative 2 times x minus 9. So negative 4x equals negative 2x plus 18, add 2x. Negative 2x equals 18, divide by negative 2. X equals negative 9. Now what you have to make sure is that that doesn't make the denominator 0, which it doesn't. It would make it negative 18, not 0. So x equals negative 9. That's number 8. Number 9, you're finding the equation of the line. It has a slope of negative 12 and passes through the point, slope of negative 12, passes through the point negative 14, 173. We want it in slope-intercept form, so we start with point-slope form because we've got a point and a slope. So y minus 173 equals negative 12. I keep forgetting the negative. Negative 12 times x minus negative 14. So then y minus 173 equals negative 12x minus 14 times 12 would be 168, because this is a positive 14. Then we add 173. So y equals negative 12x plus 5, because negative 168 plus 173 is 5, and that's it. You just had to write the equation of the line, something you did in Algebra 1 and Geometry, and again this year. Number 10, write the quadratic equation whose root is 8. So my root is 8, which means that's x minus 8 all squared, or you could have x minus 8 times x minus 8. X squared minus 16x plus 64, if I follow the shortcut, equals 0. If you do not put equals 0 on there, it's wrong, because it asks for a quadratic equation. So make sure you put equals 0. Be real careful with that, because I'll just count it wrong, because I'm warning you now. Okay, then on number 11, we have this f of x equals x plus 2 times x squared plus 11 minus x plus 2 times 3x plus 9. Okay, so that's the problem. It's on your review. So we're going to take x plus 2 out, and we're going to have x squared plus 11 minus 3x plus 9. Now notice how I put parentheses, because it's going to change the 3x and it's going to change the 9. So I'd have x plus 2 and then x squared minus 3x, because that turns into a minus 3x, minus 9. So 11 minus 9 is 2, plus 2. 11 minus 9 is a plus 2. So this is x plus 2, and then this is x minus 2, x minus 1, because the factors of 2 that give 3 are 2 and 1. So negative 2, positive 2, positive 1. That's what x can be. Those are the roots, those are solutions. It says to find the roots, those are the roots, meaning those are your x-intercepts. That's where this graph would cross the x-axis at those 3 places. X-intercepts, roots, zeros, all the same. So that's number 11. Then number 12, we're solving again. So you got lots of solve by factoring on here. 4x cubed minus 100x equals 0. So I'm going to take a 4x out, because I can. That leaves x squared minus 25. So then 4x, that's x plus 5, x minus 5. Wow, x plus 5, x minus 5. So one of my answers is 0 because of the 4x, and then negative 5, positive 5. Again, those are the roots, the zeros, the solutions, the x-intercepts. Then number 13, we're supposed to multiply and simplify, but we simplify first and then we multiply. So we got to factor first, so let me write this. 8x plus 8x squared over x squared minus 16 times x squared minus 3x minus 4 over x squared plus 2x plus 1. So take an 8x out. That would leave 1 plus x. X minus 4x plus 4 is the difference of two squares. Let's see, x minus 4, x plus 1, because negative 4 times 1 is negative 4, negative 4 plus 1 is negative 3, and then this is x plus 1 times x plus 1, or you could write it as x plus 1 squared, but it's easier to factor if you leave it like this. Easier to cancel, I mean. So x minus 4 cancels. That 1 plus x cancels with 1 x plus 1 because the order doesn't matter. X plus 1 cancels with x plus 1. So 8x over x plus 4 is how you leave it. You don't do anything else. Now, we're also asked for what values of x make it undefined. So you look at your denominators. You want the zeros of your denominators. So 4 would make that a 0. That's negative 4. And these have a negative 1. So those would make it undefined. Those are your undefined values. You have to do both. I'm showing you both. You have to do both. You have to simplify it, and then you have to show your undefined values, which are your zeros of the denominator. So look at your denominator after it's factored and find your zeros from there, okay? And we're going to skip number 14. So 14, skip. So we're going on to 15. Number 15. Okay, number 15 is a sum of two cubes again, which I've already shown you the pattern for sum of two cubes and difference of two cubes. So I take the cube root of 64x to the 6, which would be 4x squared, because I divide the 6 by 3, plus y squared, because again, I divide the 6 by 3, because I'm taking the cube root. Now from there, I don't need this original anymore. This set of parentheses comes from here. So I square the 4x squared. So that'd be 16x to the 4th, because 4 squared is 16 and x squared is x to the 4th. Minus, because that's the pattern, 4x squared y squared, because we put them together. And then we square the y squared, which would be y to the 4th. Always apply. There's only one subtraction sign. If it's the sum of two cubes, the subtraction sign is second in the second set of parentheses. If it's the difference of two cubes, then the subtraction sign is first, okay? And always make sure you check your exponents. Like 2 plus 4 should be the 6 that you started with. 2 plus 4 should be the 6 that you started with. And this should always just be these two put together, okay? That's 15. Then number 16, we've got f of x is 3x minus 2, and g of x is negative 4x. We want to find the composition of functions. So f of g of x. So f of g of x, that means g of x is going into f of x. If it's f of g of x, or f circle g of x, you're taking negative 4x and you're putting it into the x right there by the 3. So 3 times negative 4x minus 2, that'd be negative 12x minus 2. So that's f of g of x. Now we want to do g of f of x, which means now we're taking f of x and putting it right here where the x is. So negative 4 times 3x minus 2. So that'd be negative 12x plus 8. So they're not the same. They're not the same. That's the way you do those composition of functions. Those are composition of functions. Then number 17. 17, let's see. Suppose we've got $2,000 deposited into savings account. How much will it be in the account in 6 years if the account earns interest at an annual rate of 3% compounded quarterly? So if it's compounded quarterly, this is not continuously like number 6 was. This is compounded quarterly. So this is where you use this formula. A, your amount after a certain amount of time. Principal, that's just a 1. R, interest rate as a decimal. N, the number of times it's compounded during the year. And T is time in years. So we have $2,000 deposited. That's our initial, that's our principal. My interest rate is 3%, so 0.03. Compounded quarterly, so that's 4 times a year. And then 4 times 6 years. So then you just type this in your calculator. 2,000 parentheses 1 plus 0.03 divided by 4, close parentheses, and then to the 4 times 6, I'm just going to go ahead and put 24, hit enter, and then you round that to dollars and cents. So $2,392.83. Dollars and cents. Okay, so if it's compounded quarterly, it's 4. Daily would be 365. Your N would be 365. Monthly, your N would be 12. Weekly, your N would be 52. Annually, your N would be 1. If it's compounded annually, that's 1. So those are just some ideas about what N would be if it's daily, monthly, weekly, annually. You see quarterly and monthly the most, or annually actually. But that's just some examples of what your N's would be on the different compounding. Then on number 18, it says to use substitution. I don't care how you solve it. Actually, what I'm going to do, I'm going to multiply the top by a -2. That'll give me, so I'm going to, top one is negative 8x now, minus 10y equals negative 52. And then 8x plus 8y equals 40, because that's an 8. So then that's going to give me negative 2y equals negative 12, and then divide by -2, so y is 6. And then if y is 6, you plug back in to find x. I'll do the bottom one. 8x plus 8y equals 40. So 8x plus 8 times 6 equals 40. So 8x plus 48 equals 40. Subtract 48. So 8x is, -8. Divide by 8. So x is -1. So -1 comma 6, make sure you put it in parentheses. You could have used Kramer's rule on that if you wanted to. And actually number 19 does ask you to use Kramer's rule. So I'm going to show you Kramer's rule, and I want you to use Kramer's rule. On the one on the test that asks for Kramer's rule, I want to see it. Okay, so let's see. Negative 3x minus 8y equals negative 47. Negative 8x plus 3y equals negative 28. So Kramer's rule, x. If I want x, that means I put the constants, negative 47, negative 28, in where the x's would go, and I put the y's in here. Then on the bottom, it's the coefficient matrix on the bottom. X's, y's, constants when we're looking for x. So then you go to your calculator and you define the determinant of these two matrices. So on your calculator, second, x to the negative first, go over to edit, hit enter, and make it a 2 by 2. Sorry. This is 2 by 2, and then put in your numbers. Negative 47, negative 8, oh, that didn't do anything. Negative 47, negative 8, negative 28, and 3. Then get out of that, go back to it, go to math, you want the determinant, then go back and get A. So it looks like it's negative 365. Then we do the bottom one. So now I go back and go to edit, and it's still a 2 by 2. Now it's negative 3, and then negative 8, and then negative 8 and 3. Get out of it, go back to it, go to math, determinant, second, that one, negative 73. So 365 divided by 73, hopefully I haven't messed up. It's 5. Okay, so x is 5. Then to find y, well, you know the bottom one is already negative 73, so you don't have to refine that one. On the top one, you put your x's in, negative 3, negative 8, and then you put your constants in for your y, negative 47, negative 28. So then we go back second, x to the negative first, go over to edit, leave it as a 2 by 2, negative 3, negative 47, negative 8, negative 28. Go back and find it. Go to math. We want the determinant. We want a negative 292 over negative 73. So 292 divided by 73 is 4. So this is 4. So you write your answer, 5, 4 in parentheses. But on the one that asked for Kramer's rule on the test, I want to see Kramer's rule. I've shown you how to do Kramer's rule. I've talked you through Kramer's rule, so I want to see Kramer's rule on the one that asked for Kramer's rule. Okay, then number 20 is also a graph. So you've got 2 graphs on this one. So you've got to send me 2 graphs. So on number 20, you're graphing x equals 6. To graph x equals 6, you go on your x-axis and you draw a line where x equals 6, a vertical line. That has to be on graph paper. Graph paper. If it's not, I'm going to mark it wrong. So graph paper. So you have 2 graphs to send in. Number 2 is a graph, you got to color it, and number 20 is a graph. So make sure you send those. Again, this is review 17. It's due the 1st. It's due May 1st. And the test is due May 1st. That's this Friday.